Welcome to the Mind Sensei podcast. I'm your host, Peter Taz, and I'll be taking you on a journey to the world of martial arts and introduce listeners to some of the most inspiring and knowledgeable practitioners from around the world. Whether you're a seasoned martial artist or a curious beginner, or just enjoy hearing a great story, the Mind Sensei podcast Down Under has something for everyone. So tune in, sit back, and let us take you on a journey through the world of martial arts. So today on the Mind Sensei podcast, we welcome Mr. Frank Vigoroux, President of the Vigoroux International Academies, and a ninth degree black belt in American Kenpo under Grandmaster Larry Tatum. Originally from Chile, Mr. Vigoroux brought his passion for Kenpo to the US, where he established his first known Kenpo school in North Jersey. A 5 times Instructor of the Year and Hall of Honor inductee, Mr. Vigoroux continues to lead and inspire martial arts around the world. So welcome to the Mind Sensei podcast, Mr. Frank Vigoroux.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's very excited. I see already you did podcast with so many great Kenpo instructors, so I'm so honored. Thanks so much, sir.
Thank you. Let's get started. Let's start with where did it all begin? So what inspired you to start practicing martial arts, and what was the first style you started with?
Wow, that's actually coming from late 70s. I was a little boy, and that is a story that I mentioned before. I went to see my friend to his house. I was probably around 7, 8 years old. And something that really caught my attention was in the wall, in the hallway, they got this beautiful panoramic photo on a bunch of martial artists in a white uniform. Everybody looked black belt to me in that picture. And that really caught my attention. And I said, one day I want to do that. So early 80s is when I started in the martial art. I was looking for doing karate. I didn't have any knowledge about martial arts whatsoever. So for me, pretty much Kung Fu, karate, and Taekwondo pretty much was everything the same. So I was very fortunate and blessed my first style was American Kenpo. Actually, I found American Kenpo school, and it wasn't quite American Kenpo what we know today. It was more type of Japanese karate, type of old school karate with a few Kenpo moves. Back in the 80s, American Kenpo wasn't quite what we know today. It wasn't none technology, nothing whatsoever what we know as a Kenpo today. But at least it was the name, the patch, and it was Ed Parker Kenpo.
Are they called it Ed Parker's Kenpo?
Right, exactly. Well, it was actually one of the Parker affiliated guy. By the way, it was in the lineage of Arturo, the master instructor who introduced American Kenpo to South America, to Chile more specific. So we were so blessed actually fortunate to have Arturo Petit and be the first one. And MAP actually, Chile was one of the first one that American Kenpo moved out of the state. And Arturo Petit was person who brought Kenpo. And obviously, wasn't quite the techniques that we know today. The curriculum was way different. We had more type of karate, forms, Shotokan. And that's why when I explained about my Kenpo in the past, I said I did karate, but I won't take karate because it wasn't quite Japanese karate type like Shotokan. But we got a lot of elements influenced by that. I believe that Arturo Petit was in it's an ancient Ryu Karate, I believe, Parker. So we got a lot of influence of that. And remember walking home, I saw this flyer, in store, in school, and I took the address, and the first thing I went to see with my friend, and I was really hooked. I didn't see anybody. It was just my sensei wife who was there, and she gave me the information, but just looking around and saw the dojo, the studio, and I was like, wow, this is it. And I still remember today, this is funny because I still remember the smell of that studio. It was something like sweat and humidity there. And I still remember every time when I smell that, I remember back memories from my first karate school. And so very excited. I didn't quite understand much about karate, but it was fun and truly enjoy. After that, I never left karate.
Okay. So who was your first instructor?
My first instructor, called Juan Janes, he was a lineage of Arturo Petit, one of the first that Arturo Petit teach south in Chile. And I was very lucky to have a first generation guy. And the training was very old school. You know, sometimes I want to see Cobra Kai or the Karate Kid from the 80s. I remember my school was like that, very, very Cobra Kai type. Because once again, we didn't have a extensive curriculum. So obviously my sensei, more emphasis at physical training. So, the workout was most of the time was like 40 minutes of the class. So it was a very physical, very intense, very no pain, no gain type of deal. And, didn't have any time or many, reason to excuse ourselves. So we tear where you take it. So that type of mentality. My sensei actually was a Army officer, so he got that mentality in old school. And I bet you today, if I teach what I learned from him or what I went through in my old school, I'm going to be closed down today because it was extremely tough. And I learned the values. The most, I guess, important is never give up in the process. And I went through a lot of process in my life, and that really taught me a life of skills and a great philosophy. And I think that was the most remarkable about his training back then.
Okay. How far did you get with him? So with Mr. Juan Yan?
Went all the way to black belt. I did my black belt training until I'm kind of very small. Actually, I born in the Patagonia, which is like a south in the world. Next thing is Antarctica. So, you know, funny because here you tend to, you live here in New Jersey in the state, and people think, you know, think in South America, you might think in Puerto Rico, you think in Caribbean, you think in palms and beach and sun. But when I come from, it's very cold. Actually, it's the sidekick of Alaska. Very very extreme. I mean, when the winter hit there, it's extremely wet. You know, pretty much 10 months snow and cold and wind, and so it's very extreme. So anyway, I born, but when I was 3 or 4 years old, I moved to the central Chile, where I start my training. I come from a very small town in the central Chile. It's like 2 hours from Santiago, the capital. And my flag belt in Kenpo, except it wasn't quite the Kenpo we have today, but it was some elements there, you know, along karate and some judo and a type of martial art putting together. And I get my first degree there in 1990 before I moved here to this.
That journey evolved. So you got your black belt in 1990. Where did your journey take you from there?
I mean, one things I gotta say to mention here that the passion was so much intense. And when I moved here, by the way, to New York, still looking for karate. I said, you know, finally to the United States, one of the things I want to do is start formally learning American Kenpo. And I've started looking here. One of the things I always said about people in New York, because you can find anything in New York, anything but Kenpo. It was not American Kenpo whatsoever when I moved to New York City. So I was looking and searching for Kenpo, nothing around until finally I met someone, because I did Taekwondo for quite some time, and I met somebody there in the school I was in, and this guy appointed me to this Kenpo school. It wasn't quite a Parker Kenpo, it was a Tracy's Kenpo / other point fighting and tournament type of and so that was pretty much my first contact with Kenpo today, and the love and the passion, like I said, that learning from my sensei, from my previous martial art, this way and give me the weight and never this. That was such a plus in the way. Learning from a very tough, I said, well, you know, after, you know, doing a year of Kenpo, left karate. And one of the reasons was, it wasn't in love with sensei. I think I get in love with the art. That's for sure. Always, you know, then I honor him as a respect, and I give you all the credit for what he did in my training. But I get the passion was myself in order to finally continue.
So who's the instructor you started training with in New York? You said you found a Kenpo instructor.
With this guy, Jack Schamberger, this gentleman worked from, wasn't from a local, from Florida. Actually, he moved here to start his new, spread the Kenpo actually, here in New York. I want to say here in New York because I'm now far from New York City, actually. I'm 10 minutes away from New York. I'm on the border between New Jersey and New York. So, people here always, we said New York, New Jersey. So when we said New York, we so identify with New York City because we're so close. Anyway, so he moved to New York to start his studio here in the city. And it was only, well, definitely interesting and all. And he was a student also of a gentleman named, I believe he passed away, Steve Nutty Anderson and Chicken Gabriel, like old school fighters. And like I said, he'll here to start and spread the art of Kenpo. And I was so lucky to be the crew group. And that was another actually chapter in my life because I learned, the other side. I was a competitor back in Chile. Actually, I did one in karate, the Tao, when I was 19 years old. I was 18 years old when I won the national title in the Masoyama style because many people in Chile and was the only type of martial art down in South America that enjoyed the same rule. We used to compete against them or Kenpo group. In the rule we used it was bare knuckles. So it was no punches in the face, but else was. So anyway, I won my national champion title there in Kyokushinkai Karate. So when I moved to the state, one of the things I learned, by the way, was point fighting, and I didn't quite familiar with. So in Jack Schamberger's studio, I learned that type of training, and I compete. It wasn't quite my type of fight. It was very interesting. I learned a lot, but more than one actually in the title of a New York State Championship. I won the first place in Polynesian. Actually, was although Kayupo, American Kenpo, Tracy, so I won the first place. And actually, that's something that made me feel like, you know what, I think this is what I want to do for life. And that, I give it up, all the credit to Jack Schamberger for giving me the opportunity and be very well. So actually, my salute and my blessing to him as well.
Get with Mr. Jack.
Did my second degree black belt because when I moved to Chile, from Chile, I was first degree, so my second degree in Hawaiian Kenpo. And then from there, I started looking. I remember, I said when I moved to when I came here to the United States, I was thinking to come back. So you know what? I don't want to live there more than a year because I miss my family, my friends, and everything. So I said, you know what? I was 20 years old when I moved here, and I say I think it's in a year I'm coming back. So that was part of the plan, and actually never. And the idea was learn, pay some money, and come back home again. And so when I was with Jack, thinking, this is something cool to bring back to. So I would decide, I some money, and I visit the country. Like I said, it never happened because one thing triggered the other. I opened a studio here, which actually the two partners called me to open a studio in New Jersey. Actually, one of them was a Jack Schamberger student. He came from Hunger Kung Fu. The other one was his friends. And actually, they put the money together, and they need another partner. They called me. They invited me to be part of that group. And we opened the first American Kenpo here in New Jersey. And that's actually was the time that I said, you know what, this is something I want to do. So I was thinking, learn some things, come back to Chile. Be with my partners. I took a trip to Chile, teach a seminar for the first time. And we wasn't with Jack anymore at that point. We was under another association. Actually, we was under Students Pride Association. And you know what? When I was in Chile, I teach seminar and everything. And I say, I think I wanted to trip the American Kenpo because one was boxer, the other one was Hunger Kung Fu. So we try to adding together the three system in one, and they didn't kind of work. And I feel like people really want to learn American Kenpo. So went back to Chile. I teach a seminar at Kenpo, and then my idea was, if I come back to America, I think I'm going to start my own thing. And that's what I did. When I came back, my partner, and it's such a great term because there was amazing people, actually. I love them, the great people. And I said, this was the time to walk on my own. And I decided to open my own studio. So I was searching for places. And by the way, I got a studio in with my partner. Was very successful, very successful. We was 3 years together, and we did amazing martial artists, great students, and it was no really, but feel deep in my heart. It was my that's one ultimate end. Once again, start a new chapter in my life, working, save some money, and finally I opened my own studio with my. So that was when I called Vigoroux. Back there was Vigoroux Kenpo Karate Studio. That's it. Everything came international after I traveled to Venezuela and I started doing teaching there. Something magical happened in Venezuela, and I feel that there is a lot of people now want to learn with me. They were part of my group, so I turned from just Vigoroux Kenpo Karate. I turned into Vigoroux Kenpo Karate International, and actually I did it like an association, and then I got people affiliated with South America, from all over. It was interesting because the base, the headquarters was in New Jersey, but I didn't have any American or any local in my association. Everything was based here, but I worked for South America. So all my people came from Latin America. We got a great, amazing martial artist that came to training here. And we didn't do the crossover. Finally, the crossover came later on, but we was for at least 10 years serving South America. Base was here. We got a lot of local students. My focus point was South America, Chile, Ecuador, Venezuela, Mexico. So we was very dedicated. Got the association quite not taken starting here in the States. That actually later on. Yeah, that's pretty much how things start.
When you went to New York under Mr. Jack, you were doing the Tracy's Kenpo? What was the syllabus you were doing?
Yeah, the syllable was Tracy's. Actually, that's something that really...
Like 40 techniques, a belt, and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, actually it was more than that. Actually, I learned 80 techniques curriculum, and then I jacked it around to make it 40 techniques correct. But everything was when I relate today, compared with American Kenpo curriculum, we have things like dancer A, B, C, D, so version B, C, D, so every letter was moves the body. Yeah, actually, very typical. Some of the forms from 1 to 5 was pretty much from work was similar to Parker.
That was me, so right? Different move.
Yeah, different action, different.
There's no leg grab and throat grab in Parker Long Chi, right?
They have things like correct, things like attack, things. Yeah, it's been very interesting, but I knew it's not American Kenpo, so compare was very different. So I would start searching more.
Yeah, I think that principles and concepts, right? That was the key. RC syllabus. When you take a Tracy technique and a Parker principles and concepts, it's like it's a different animal.
Absolutely. Actually, everything in Parker's system of logic and got a very deep explanation and Tracy pretty much there. I won't say what, but
what drove you to move to New York then? Did you come for a job or?
I finished. I went.
Or were you following a girl?
Yeah, I was in the Police Academy there in Chile, and then I left it. And then I went to college and I did a degree in communications. And then as well, my teacher used to live here. Actually, she still live in Canada. So my plan was coming to New York because I met someone actually in New York. So I said, you know what? I go to New York. I'm from New York. I'm going to Canada, which is not too far. And guess what? I came here. Obviously, the idea was start something, either work or do something with my life. I was 20 years old, super young. And I was thinking, start a new life and so far. And so like I said, my idea was using New York as a trampoline, go to see my sister. But guess what? When I came, start liking a lot. I was like, I don't want to live here. I mean, I got, the other side of my family is I think I like New York.
Jumped in the swimming pool, no trampoline.
So obviously I didn't speak that. I was, at the beginning very hard, try to find my way. But actually karate helped me a lot. Teaching helped me a lot to learn the language. And I followed this correct. And at the end it didn't happen. But when I was here, I was like, wow, this is the capital of the world. There's to do. And thank God, because I never took any wrong path in my life. Came here. New York City wasn't like it today. I mean, Times Square was dirty, drug, prostitution. I mean, until finally the mayor, Giuliani, came and cleaned the city. But back there, I remember was so much. And it was easy, actually, as a young boy, take path. And thank God the Lord went in the right direction in my life. And I guess karate was a way God used to take me safe in a way for trouble. That's something that, after when I'm going to turn next month, I'm going to turn 55, and I see back my life, and definitely God used this as a way to save me.
Absolutely. Definitely. I've spoken to a few guests that a lot of them have said if I didn't start Kenpo, I'd be in a gang or locked up in prison or something, but, for That's a little bit about your journey. After Mr. Jack, you went with Mr. Steve Spry's organisation. How did that come about? Like, how did you meet him?
No, actually my partner was more in contact with him. We was certified by the man. We wasn't for two, never spoke with the guy, always got an interaction with him. And, but we got a good information from his association. Everything changed in '97. I flew to California, and I gotta say, because my ex-wife back then was bass guitar in a band, and this everything happened for a reason. And actually, well, it was pretty famous. There was a Venezuelan band based on New York. There was them, all they have for the band on Venezuela. So I was actually my girlfriend back then was, like I said, the play guitar, and they got a CD already, very famous. There was very famous in South America, and they was about to record a second CD. And the first one they did in New York, and the second one actually they was planning to do in California. And guess what? She left with the band to record it. And she goes, and he called me, this is wonderful. I want you to be here, be with me. And I want your love, your support. So I flew to California. And guess what? I got a wonderful opportunity to meet great people. At some point, I was kind of like affiliated with Jody Sasaki. So I visited Jody. I went to visit the Flores brothers. Well, it was an amazing Kenpo tour. We went to a training with Brian Hawkins, Mr. Mohammed Dawdalai. We met Parker's wife, actually. We met an appointment, and we went to see her. She was wonderful. She opened her house. She was amazing. She was a very interesting person to meet. And she opened pretty much the whole house. She invited me. She showed me the house. The house actually was like a museum, and Mr. Parker's office where he wrote the books. I mean, it was a whole night. What a trip. And I made, in that same trip, and that is fine, and I told her, I've Chile, from a date, lineage, and so far as you want, I don't have anybody in New Jersey. Do you want to be our representative? And I said, oh my God, that will be an honor. Yeah, absolutely. But guess what? 2 days later, I went to see Mr. Tatum. When I saw the man, everything changed. I mean, I never quite was familiar with Tatum. I heard about him, but I never seen Tatum before. So we went to see Tatum at his studio, and I got the opportunity to train. It was a training in his studio, and after that, everything changed. So I feel like, I met Tatum, and I feel like a white belt. I say, you know what? this is it. This is the man. I mean, this is type of Kenpo one. This one there are. This is true Kenpo for the first time. So actually I called my partner wife and I said, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I want to take this round and go with someone else. So 97, I met Tatum, and from there I never actually stopped to be in training with him.
You got your first from Mr. Jack, or you got your first when you from Juan, Mr. Juan, and then you moved to New York, got your second from Mr. Jack, and then did you do your third and fourth with Mr. Spry? Is that right? A part of that group?
Sure, we did it there in the Spry Association, and Diana Ujari Sasaki, I did my fourth. And the one in Tatum, I feel like, gosh, this is very similar, yeah.
How was it? Tell us about your training with Jody Sasaki.
It was great. I met Jody in New York, actually, in my Sensei Sifu, actually, we call Sifu, Mr. Jack Schomburger. He one of the presenter in one of his seminars, and I met Jody, and I was getting amazing. It was incredible, moving fast. I mean, his move, and I thought kind of like working from distance with that when I went to California and training with his people, I mean, was absolutely different. That was another. When affiliated with Tatum, he honored my fourth, and a year later, I took my test for my fifth. And but it was incredible. I mean, the way Tatum understands Kenpo, it's absolutely an inspiration. It's I guess the most close thing that you can get from Park, even though I never met her. But he really took the art of Kenpo to another. Absolutely.
What was it? Ed Kenpo you learned with J.D. Sasaki, or was it a Hawaiian Kenpo?
Yeah, remember Jody was a student of the father, and the father's brother was under Parker. And actually, at some point, they learned Kenpo under Tatum as well, too. So it was American Kenpo, absolutely American Kenpo. That was kind of like a direct transition to American Kenpo and learn, curriculum, learn from Tracy's.
Was that your first introduction to principles and concepts when you hooked up with Mr. Tate?
Not quite, because when I learned in Chile, I didn't have the whole syllable, but we had a few things. It was too lost. The thing is, for the learn American Kenpo and then go to Tracy's, obviously it was more material, and the way things were explained, it was quite different. But I got an idea already of American Kenpo, so when I, training with Jody, I knew more about Kenpo. And then obviously everything changed when I met Tatum. I mean, the point of start all over again and realizing everything. So everything got a reason, everything connected, everything got a logic, everything got a principle motion that connected one with the other. So amazing. I mean,
missing lessons.
Right, correct.
When changing the techniques. My old instructor just recently, this is going to come out this week, and I said, you could only teach us what you knew and what you were shown by your instructor. You could really do what you were shown, and that's what your perception of reality was of the art, was what you were given. And I say to my guys, I still say it, don't be afraid, go out, train with everyone. Don't be afraid to go anywhere. Because some people say you don't train with others, you don't host other people, you don't go to other seminars. It's like, no, is what we're doing, because if it isn't, why would you want to waste your time if there's something better out there, All right, so you achieved your black belt in 1990 with Mr. Juan. That was back in Chile.
Correct.
Tell us about your black belt grading.
Those are the type of things that you never forget, and is the type of things that absolutely you can replicate again, because the amount of intent, I don't think I won't say the generation can take it, obviously, but it was a little bit brutal, I guess, compared with what we know today, because everything actually today, we try to make sense of what we teach, and everything has got some logic behind. But back then, it was like we try to improvise with toughness and physical approaches. So everything was fighting with a number of people actually healing up, I don't know, what's that, 15, 20, and then call one at a time and you fight with them one after another. Pretty much if you survive, you pass, that type of deal, along with performance on techniques, form, basics, and exalts. It was a few hours that you feel like you're not going to accomplish this. Pretty much die. And so when I finally did the test, it was over. It was tears in my eye, and not for the pain, for the amazing experience you went through. That was remarkable. Those type of things that would never happen again in my life, and I don't think I'll replicate it here, because it was a little taste of brutality, intensity, passion, love, and how much you can take it. Like I said, the old school, I guess it happened, and every time we talk with old school friends in my generation, we got the same. It's funny because we got the same stories. You heard people from they're learning in the 70s, 80s. It's pretty much the same story. Even people here stay, because you might feel like, oh, here, if you do something like that, you're going to get sued. No, back then it was pretty tough too. So everybody who learned Kenpo in 60, 70, and 80 pretty much replicated the story. It was very brutal. It was a level of control. It was very different for what you understand today what control is. So very intense, very tough. If you do this today, I'm sure somebody would go die a heart attack, because it was extremely intense. Just starting to work out, and then basics, the self-defense technique, and ended up with the number of fighting. And I heard some people, they got to do 100 kicks, 100 roundhouse kick, whatever. That's tough. You got to fight 15, 20 people, and one after another. You got to be really physically and mentally. You got to be prepared for that.
I think it's a lesson of physical exhaustion to test your mental capacity.
Correct. It took you to the limit, how much the body and the mind can take. And like I said, I heard the story over and over from old school, and I from police academies, for military establishments. Just the type of story you heard, but you don't heard. And my test was tough, and the school was tough, and the environment was tough. You see things, if you see this thing, and just from the movie, Bruce Lee and the training was hardcore. They don't have a dojo like per se. They're training outdoors, so it was a different approach back then. I'll be unfair if I said back then was better or it was more intense back there, because the degree of intensity today is different.
Get more mental and knowledge now compared to before, because the syllabus didn't have the information, so you had to fill in the gaps with something else.
Right, correct. Right.
So you either got to be tougher or smarter, right?
Absolutely. That was the way to fill the gap. We didn't have any technology. We didn't have any concept. We didn't have any curriculum like today. So obviously you got to fill that gap with something, and definitely be tough.
Wait. They still have traditional styles here. They do the black belts, 100-man kumite, 100 people sparring, still done. And I think that is also, like you said, that's the way they present their black belts. Whereas I think in Kenpo, we have so much information you've got to relay. And if you're going to test a student on the information, unfortunately for my students, for their black, they must do everything. Like I get out the list and we do everything. Every step, every basic, every form, start to finish. And that's also a physical test. Because if they can't make the end of the test, then they're not going to make it on the street.
Right.
But like you said, just to get that toughness.
That was the way back then. And that's something also that you could happen back then. I don't know if you went through this, but that they started to repeat over and over. Is a lot of people used to come to challenge my school. Typical things in the 80s, given the 70s, had the same stories. And I was the guard in my school. So every time somebody come to test in his martial arts skills or challenge my school, boom, I was the one that chose me to fight. So I had a lot of those fight people that coming from pretty much walking from the street, knocking the door and asking, can I fight here? Can I prove my skill turn so far? And I was the one. So I got a lot of those. And back then, it was a typical thing. So obviously, and it's not just to know the concept and principle motion or the technology of the move, but you got to be always be ready and tough and improving type of martial art. And that was like that. So we filled that gap with that because you need it. That was the way. That was the code, pretty much. It was almost like a Bushido code.
What's one of the hardest things you've had to do in your journey?
Oh, I think one of the hardest is leave the family. I guess that was one of the hardest things for an individual, especially women mature early. But when you're 20 years old, you're still mommy's baby. And I'm the youngest of three. So obviously a process to grow as a man and be without the family, find my way, being in a country that it wasn't my different language, so many things again, it does something in you. It's either they kill you or they make you grow. And actually I'm here, so that made me grow and made me the person who I am today. And it's very relevant because I feel in a way it's very equal what happened in my outside life and the dojo. It was very similar. I need to adjust myself for a different art, different instructor, different people, new friends, and also on the other side, survive, find my way, find a way to eat every day and so forth. So it was a very challenging, not just, like I said, inside of the dojo in the martial art, but outside as well. So moving here, it was definitely a big challenge in my life. And again, God always put in his hand and give me the strength to survive and finally make my way. I think that was one of the hardest things, leaving the family, start brand new. In the Spanish culture, we're very attached with the family. Obviously, here in European cultures, it's a little bit different, but in the Spanish, you're very attached with your family. You live as long you can live with your parents, and that family means everything. Early from home and start renewing in a country, a different place, that is a huge challenge and a huge, actually, obstacle to win. And thank God, once again, God put his hand all over me.
Oh. There. Well, so let's discuss a little bit about your lineage, just so I've got it right. Started out with Mr. Juan, moved on to New York with Mr. Jack Schemberger, is it? I'm not sure I'm saying it right. Steve Spry, then Mr. Jody Sasaki, and then Mr. Tatum, which is where you are now, right? Yeah. Tell us your journey with Mr. Tatum, please. You started with him in 1997. 2025 now, so
quite some time, right? Traveling from New York. Back then, I used to live in New York. New York, obviously, is time, distance, and an effort to make my way to training there. Like I said, when I trained with Tatum, very challenging because the level of the training and the focus and conform was quite different from what so, and I feel like a white bulb. And, I got I'm blessed to, or he's a student himself, people that really help me, to make the and learn. And actually the class was very intense and those guys really helped me in order to, to get information and learn. I was my friend actually from Brooklyn. We trained together in Brooklyn. Once Serrano was my dear friend. We know from years, and actually was a very key guy to help me to get Tatum material. Training Cliff and William and all those guys. That really was wonderful, and everybody actually so much and give me the welcome and the opportunity to train. And working with Tatum, it's different training. Tatum, the Kenpo, the way he understands Kenpo, definitely take it in something. So trouble every time. So this is the way I used to feel. I used to go there, stay in California for quite some time, training with them, coming back to New York, New Jersey. I used to have my studio. So training here, I feel, and I travel to Tatum, I always feel like I was right. Every time when I come back from Tatum, it was the level of frustration, the level of depression. It was huge. But it always encouraged me, Tatum always encouraged me to continue. And something that really helped me do the transition was learn training and teaching. That's something important. That's why Mr. Tatum said, you want to have a private lesson, teach one. And actually, it's so true. When you teach, and so much, when you teach, you see things sometimes you never see when you're training your own or when you learn from your instructor. So obviously, teaching in my own studio, all the information before, it was very key in order to advance and progress on my camp. So every time I'm ready to come back, the level of, the pressure was just finally, and I get on a point that I was feel more confident and get it and understand Tatum's camp more and more and more. Yeah, so like when you want really learn and you dance and you art, I think one of the things is learn one private lesson. Tatum always mentioned, and I said before, when people ask for a private lesson, he goes, the best way to have a private lesson is teach one. And that's what happened to me. Teaching here, Mr. Tatum, the level of frustration that I used to coming back from California, I started getting little bit. And then finally, one of the things that I understood is, all right, that's the camp I want to be. I need to copy the guide and find my way. So I think one of the things that I feel my students, it's not like you quite copy, but when you try to mimic, imitating instructor, and you get the influence, and in that process, you find your way. That exactly happened to me. Much close, and Tatum finally recognized myself, and for the type of structure of my body, for my mentality, the way to understand the art, I think that made me actually finally get my own. A lot of element, obviously, I got the Tatum influence, but through that, I finally get myself and where I am today, which influenced others, because finally I understood the element that made me very unique. And that's actually that happened to every individual. So finally, to learn so much, you will find a way that makes you as your own individual and your own particular way. You will find your way. And something I gotta say that I learned from Tatum. He gave me the master key, and that master key actually changed everything. Finally made me tailoring my own way. And in this process of copy, finally, I get the element that made me recognize my own self. And what I teach today is coming from who I am, and that's what people get today. It's not, obviously it's American Kenpo, it's a Tatum lineage. It's myself. It's my spirit and the art, and that's kind of hard to find sometimes because everybody try to mimic and try to get the influence, but to recognize the essence of the art and actually plant that seeds in you and reveal that, it is a process. And fortunate to be at that level where it actually could be myself. And when you see, my move, obviously you're gonna see the Tatum influence product is very particular. It's myself, and yeah.
Let's talk about other aspects of your life that doesn't involve martial arts. So you mentioned you were in the police academy in Chile. Did you end up becoming a police officer, or what other things do you do outside of martial arts?
Like I said, I started communicating. I never did anything with that. And as I moved here, obviously working as an immigrant and different type of jobs and try to find my way. I worked in construction for quite some time to make the money and survive. But definitely martial art was my goal, my focus. And thank God that I early started teaching and actually getting paid for that and find my way. I opened my own studio. So I've been teaching from, it's a studio, this for Vigoroux 1997 we opened. So it's been quite some time now that I'm being so blessed into martial art of my.
You've been teaching since 1997, right? So do you have any other hobbies outside of martial arts?
Well, I love music. I love dancing. I love painting. I love the arts. Not that good in sport. Actually, I tried when I was a kid, play soccer. Actually, my father was a great player. My brother too, but definitely I didn't have the talent. But I love soccer, don't get me wrong. But it's sport, I'm not. It's funny because you might think, oh, with your martial ability, you could be good in sport. No, I wasn't. No, a sport is not quite something that I like. I love the music. I love art. I love painting. I'm not great, but that's kind of like one of my things as well. And I love the art, definitely. Actually, my daughter played violin, played piano, so I think it's in the gene, I guess.
You've got your fourth from Mr. Tatum in 1997.
We honor my around
your current rank. So what did it mean for you to receive your ninth degree, which is your current rank, Master of the Arts, from Mr. Tatum?
League picking all my ranks, and not many people take that for night, but I feel very honored to having been taken pick under, in front of Mr. Tatum for my night. And it's interesting because, after not taking tests, being waiting for 10 years and second trip after 10 years, it's feel like I will play again. So it's very nervous. It's a very intense, tool. But I did it. I feel very happy and very, proud to be testing for my guide. And very honored for doing the 6, 7, and 8. So it was very happy, prime moment for me, my students, and actually my daughter was there. Thank God. Had it too.
So you're currently residing in New York, and have you traveled to teach in other countries? Let's hear about that journey.
That's part of the journey that, in 99, 2000, when the opportunity started hitting my door. First of all, Chile was, obviously where I'm original from, so I got the opportunity to be there. Chile actually is very interesting because Chile is the Kenpo of South America. Chile was the first country where American Kenpo was introduced into. With Ireland, with Jack McSweeney, Arturo Petit was one of the first who introduced American Kenpo in the country. So American Kenpo, in a very small, actually one of my guys is in a very small town. In that town you can find like 8 different Kenpo schools. So it's amazing. It's like Taekwondo here in the East Coast, in the state. Very popular. So obviously in 99, 2000, that's when I had the opportunity to travel overseas. Chile was the first destination, but then Venezuela came in the picture, and that's when everything changed. When I started traveling to Venezuela. Venezuela is the second icon country, and all that American Kenpo is big. And there amazing martial artists, amazing Kenpo federation that actually run the Kenpo in the country. And one of the president of the organization, seminar down there. And I got this amazing and blessed opportunity to travel many times. And then other countries like Ecuador came in the picture, Guatemala, Mexico. Start traveling a lot and actually spread the word of American Kenpo. And I didn't have the opportunity to do the transition, the crossover to the American market here in the United States. And I had the opportunity to travel to England, and then I got the opportunity to here in the States as well, Canada and Spain as well. So that's where we got our association. So the small studio become an international association. So teaching overseas, obviously, I give a different perspective because it's one thing to teach as instructor in your own studio, be the instructor as, a mentor. But when you teach overseas, it's a different type of mentality in you teaching, because every time you travel, you need to teach the essence of the art. Keeping in mind that you don't have much time, keeping in mind that you don't know if you're going to come back again. So you always got to plant the seeds. So being an international instructor in a seminar, obviously, is change your gear. The way I teach, for example, my studio, I teach in local seminars, not the same way I teach when I travel overseas. I always try to the whole element and this whole essence of the art so people quite understand how American Kenpo work, and most important, what is my mentality in Kenpo. And in talking about that, I think Kenpo is a phenomenal instrument to teach a very technical and very professional type of martial art.
I'm your host Peter Taz, and you've tuned in to the Mind Sensei podcast from Down Under. We want to take a moment to thank all our listeners for tuning in to the Mind Sensei podcast. We appreciate your support and hope our show has been both informative and entertaining for you. If you haven't already done so, we would like to invite you to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we release new content, and you'll have access to all of our past episodes. We also encourage you to visit our website at mindsensei.au, where you can find additional resources related to martial arts. On our site, you can read blog posts, videos, and learn more about the guests we feature on our show. Finally, we'd like to thank our guests for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. Without their generosity, this podcast would not be possible. Thank you again for listening to the Mind Sensei podcast Down Under. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey through the world of martial arts.